Welcome to C4 Talks with Garrett and Zeta. Zeta, how you doing this week?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So, right off the bat, I wanted to go ahead and say that yes, there was not a podcast this past, or last week, I should say. That was just due to certain scheduling that failed to fall through. Certain plans didn't really come into effect, but this week we're getting back at it, and just as a cool, interesting concept, I decided to go in the route of talking about some of the recent, more popular movie trailers that have been coming out lately. It might be a little late to the party to talk about it like everybody else on the internet who's already beaten it to death, but just to kick things off here, the Avengers trailer, Infinity War. That's gonna be good movie. Oh my god. Zeta, what'd you think about the trailer?
I really liked the ending of the trailer.
With the Thor and the Guardians?
The Guardians of the Galaxy.
And we're talking about the first trailer here that dropped. None that came out after, so we're not going to be referencing anything else that came out in follow-up trailers or anything like that. Just the first one, really, that came out and everybody lost their minds about. And it was definitely what everybody, I think, and their mother wanted to see. I thought it was a really good trailer. I think all Marvel trailers are really good, but I think this one was probably the best that they'd ever done. Just because we finally get to see Thanos and all his glory actually get down on Earth. We get to see all the crap that's going to go down. We get to see all the mayhem that's going to be caused. I like the foreboding nature it has about it. It really sets you up to believe that nothing good is going to go down. Nothing really all that. The superheroes are not going to make it out as well as the average person would have hoped to see them get out. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it showcases the power of Thanos when you've got all these different superheroes in this trailer appearing to have to link forces just to even attempt to battle him.
Right.
And that to me is crazy. Now I want to talk about his appearance for a second.
Yeah.
I noticed he had some markings on his chin. Looked kind of like a built-in beard, but it wasn't hair.
Yeah, it's just his chin.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, he's for non-comic people unfamiliar with Thanos and his biology, he is what they call an Eternal. He was born on the moon of Saturn known as Titan, and he's just part of a race of people that are very, very powerful. I don't know all the specific details. I just know that he was one of the most powerful of his kind. He really rose to the ranks. He's an alien, basically, but he's one of the most powerful. God, I almost want to say one of the most powerful, probably the most dangerous threat any of the superheroes have ever come across. Ever. They really showcase that. They really showcase the kind of power this guy has behind him. Just in how, in the one scene, he beat the crap out of Iron Man. It's like he started when, like, we saw like a second of this fight with Iron Man, but just from what we saw, I think we saw enough to give us the impression that he's going to wade through the superheroes like a grown man through a kiddie pool, you know?
Yeah.
I see this guy, and first impression, just by seeing him, I was really impressed just how they were able to bring him to life. It really looks good, really looks convincing. I really like it. He's not like any of those other like really big villains and superhero movies that are all CGI. You know, they don't really look like they're there. They look fake, like in Justice League. He looks like he's there. You know, he looks like he's actually being played by somebody. I feel like he is. I don't really know the details behind that.
I definitely think so too. He looked familiar.
Yeah, he looks really good. His voice is really good. I like how intimidating he is, which is the way Thanos should be. I really like how they, in most movies, in like trailers, especially Avengers trailers, from what I remember from like the first one and the second one, is that you've always got like the big bad guy and the heroes, and then they kind of set you up to believe that, like, you know, they're probably gonna lose, but you know in the end they're all gonna like come together and beat the big bad guy. And you always get that kind of sense in the trailers, but in this trailer you really get like a sense that that they're probably going to lose. Like, you feel more of a sense that there's more of a chance they're gonna lose, and all they can do is fight back as much as they can, really, because this is a threat they've never come across before.
So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Star-Lord and the gang coming to Earth to help?
I honestly feel like that's something I'm really interested in seeing, because with Guardians of the Galaxy, more so than any other movie related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they've been so isolated. You know, they've had their own thing going on for 2 movies now. Like, for a while, they've just been out there doing their thing, and this is the first time we're going to see them interacting with everybody else. Because with everybody else, they're Earth-based, you know?
Yeah.
All the superheroes are Earth-based. It doesn't matter, like, where they are, where they originally came from, what, you know, their powers are about, who they are, you know, personality-wise. Even Thor, who's essentially from another dimension or planet or whatever they, you know, explanation they give for where Asgard is or was now, he's still majorly Earth-based, you know. All his movies have taken place on Earth. All the Avengers, he's part of the Avengers, which is an Earth-based team. You've got, you know, all those different guys like Ant-Man, Black Panther, all those other people that seemed like they were so out there, for a while at least. You know, Ant-Man wasn't part of the bigger picture until Civil War, and bringing those people, like, it all felt as like one big cohesion. But with Guardians of the Galaxy, it's almost like introducing an X Factor, you know?
Yeah.
Because what I always thought was really interesting was that you had the Avengers, and they were doing their own thing, you know, they were dealing more with the cosmic, not like the cosmic cube stuff, well, I mean, like they were, but they were dealing more with the Infinity Stones kind of thing, where they were just dealing with all the major threats surrounding Thanos himself. Like, they never really came face to face with Thanos, but they were dealing with a lot of things that were byproducts of what Thanos was ultimately trying to accomplish. Like the Loki thing in the first Avengers film. You had I want to say Age of Ultron, or something that might have related to that, because I know the Mind Stone was introduced in. That's where Vision, that robot guy who can phase through stuff, was introduced. So I know that's part of it. Really, anything that had anything to do with the stones, like, was something that was just a byproduct of Thanos, but they were dealing with that. It's like they were dealing with the actions of Thanos more so than the Guardians of the Galaxy. But the Guardians of the Galaxy, they were actually trying to essentially get to Thanos in certain elements. I feel like with the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers, they were split teams, both dealing with 2 different sides of the Thanos problem.
Correct.
And now that they're being brought together, I feel like it's such a good thing. It's such a good idea now that they're coming together in this movie, because this is where it's all going to go to shit, because now you've got both teams coming together, trying to form the ultimate army to come against this guy. And I feel like they're the wild cards just because they've been so isolated. They're so much more different than everybody else. Any Earth-based superhero, the way they work as a unit, the people they are so different. I feel like they're just going to bring so many new elements to the Avengers.
Like Rocket. I think Rocket will actually be a good aid to a lot of the Avengers because he has ideas and thoughts that none of them have thought about.
Mm-hmm.
And
his prowess in technology is really, really, really good. Like, I would enjoy seeing Tony Stark and Rocket Raccoon like come together and build like some crazy armor or something.
And that's what I was thinking of. That's like the two I was thinking that might actually make a good little team.
I think it would be really funny to see them work off of each other. Like the way, like I said, like the way the Guardians of the Galaxy are, just who they are and the way their movies go makes me just really interested in how they're going to be able to play off the more serious superheroes like Captain America or like Black Panther. And I'm just really interested in seeing how everything's gonna come together. You know, I want to see how Hulk and Thor are gonna be brought back into the fray. You know,
yeah,
because last time we saw them, they were out in space. I assume the Guardians of the Galaxy are also gonna be with them, because like we saw in the trailer, Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy meet each other, and from what I speculate is that Thor and Hulk are still gonna be in space, but they meet Guardians of the Galaxy, and then them as a group head back to Earth, you know. And then by the time they get back there, the fight between all the superheroes on Earth and Thanos is probably going to be going on. They're going to get there. They're going to be able to turn the tides a little bit, and then eventually it's all going to culminate in the eventual huge battle scene we saw in the trailers, where all the superheroes are lined up. All of Wakanda is behind them, and they're all just charging. And I cannot wait to see that. Theory though, I've heard this tossed around a couple times. I've heard people say that they believe Wakanda is going to be destroyed in this movie.
Really?
Yeah. Just because I've heard speculation from fans that believe, because the way it's been going is that we kind of know where all the Infinity Stones are, sort of, except for one, and that's the Soul Stone. And the idea is that in one of the trailers, I don't remember if it was this one, because even though we just saw it, we saw like a bunch after this, and I think I saw another trailer, but in one of the trailers to Infinity War, they believe the Soul Stone is in Wakanda, and the Soul Stone is like, it allows you to basically like sort of be able to go into this realm, which is like a soul realm, and talk to the dead, or basically walk into another plane of existence or whatever. And there's a scene in one of the trailers where you see Black Panther talking to the cat god, or the panther god, Bast. And people believe that he's able to do that because he's using the soul gem. And people also say that that's probably what that is, or what he's using to accomplish that, because in the comics, the realm you can travel to using the soul gem looks a little bit like the realm he visits in the movie. It's not like exact, but there are certain similarities that make people believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And just because we really don't know where else it could be, it's Wakanda seems like the best option, but just based on that alone, I feel like that's strong enough to believe, because it makes the most sense to me, because not only are they having the final battle there, but that scene kind of does coincide with what I've seen, you know, in the comics, what I've heard people talk about. It also makes sense. I feel like it just makes more. I just feel like it makes the most sense why that place is going to be the final battle, and why Thanos is even coming to Earth in the first place. to collect, all the remaining gems, but the soul gem is what I think he's going to be mainly after, because that's the one that's not easily accessible to him right now. Because it's so much more hidden, not just to Thanos, but to us as an audience,
Right.
So, from what I heard, how the theory goes, Infinity War is supposed to be split into 2 parts. The first part is Infinity War, and the second part is Infinity Gauntlet. And that makes me believe just makes everybody believe that Infinity Gauntlet is the movie where Thanos is going to have completed his collection of the soul gems and have a full set on the Infinity Gauntlet, and he'll be at his full power. And Infinity War, from what I've heard, is supposed to be the defeat of the superheroes. Like they said multiple times in the trailer, they're basically foreshadowing the loss of the superheroes.
Right.
And I think one of the ultimate losses is the destruction of Wakanda. And then, therefore, in Infinity Gauntlet, they're going to be able to make a comeback and eventually do whatever, the movies decide is going to happen to where they defeat Thanos. Because obviously that's what's going to happen, because they keep talking about making more and more movies. So, that's just what I think. I've been wrong in the past. I've had a lot of theories about Marvel movies that have really fallen through. I don't know what your opinion is on it.
I think I could see that playing out. I mean, if there's 2 parts, then I could definitely see the first part being where the superheroes kind of end on a note that we're not used to them ending on.
Mm-hmm.
Where things are destroyed and there's so much despair, and the human race is just kind of feeling let down by the superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And, if he gets that gauntlet full with the gems, then they're definitely going to have an issue, but, they might have time to plan. They might have time to put all their brains together and figure something out. So
Right.
I guess we'd have to see when the next movie would come out.
Yeah, I can't wait until this movie comes out. And as soon as this movie comes out, I'll be waiting for the next movie to come out, which will be dropping 2019. So we'll just have to wait for that. Next trailer we want to talk about is a trailer called Traffik. Started out, pretty quaint. It's from what I've been able to tell, it's about a couple and another couple that are kind of out in the woods at a cabin, and they somehow, through a weird series of events, get tangled up with this group that I guess are traffickers, and by this way of getting accidentally mixed up with them, this huge series of events starts to unfold where the traffickers are trying to get this group of people, the 2 couples, trying to go after them, trying to, I guess, kill them or abduct them or do whatever. It is a cascading effect. As soon as it starts picking up, the whole trailer just starts exploding. All this crap start happening. It just starts going all over the place. But it's hitting me with so much adrenaline, and I get this weird feeling in my chest where I'm just like, oh geez, this is gonna be intense. This looks good. I don't know how the movie's gonna fare, but this looks good based on what I'm seeing right here.
Well, I love suspenseful movies, and like you said, they're kind of out at what I saw was more kind of like a luxury cabin,
Mm-hmm.
more like a mansion, just kind of like a getaway.
Mm-hmm.
They're out on that weekend, and they're at this gas station, and the guy has a weird encounter with this guy. And then his girlfriend is in the bathroom and has a weird encounter with a girl in there. And it's all just very uncomfortable and unsettling, and you're not sure what it is. You're not sure if they're in a racist town. You're not sure if the people are intoxicated or on drugs or what. You're not sure what's going on. But it starts to get really weird when they get back to the place that they're renting to have a nice little couples retreat almost. And this phone starts ringing, and it's none of their phones. And then the girl from the bathroom shows up and is like, give me my phone. He'll kill all of you. And I was just like, okay, whose side are you on here? And then, like you said, it starts exploding and all this stuff is being thrown in our face. You know, I saw a scene where they're in the woods and the FBI's running through the woods. And, like, the FBI got involved in all this, and I was just like, what has happened? This is some real stuff. This isn't just like any other movie where, you know, like in Get Out, where you've got some cops and a TSA agent involved. You know?
Mainly just the TSA agent, really.
Right, or, you know, other movies where you've got just the cops involved.
Where it's just really, it feels just a little bit more isolated in those other films. And then here, it's like shit just keeps popping off and more stuff is getting introduced. Like, 1 minute you think it's just a normal sort of film. At first, you kind of feel like it's going to go somewhere kind of dark just because that's the feeling it gives off, you know. It's too perfect.
Cabin in the Woods.
Sort of.
Just like The Strangers and everything like that.
Yeah, like at first, you know, it feels like a normal film with a normal couple, but you just kind of get the sense that something bad's going to go down. And then, you know, the trailer progresses, and then just, like you said, more stuff keeps happening.
I'm interested to see how the two couples play out, how things go for them.
Yeah.
Because there's some actors in there that I know, like Paula Patton's in there, and she's really good. And I cannot think of the other girl's name, but she was in this TV show I used to watch called Devious Maids.
Mm-hmm.
And love her to death. And I'm just excited to see their acting talents and see how they do in a setting like this, how they do in a movie that's darker and action filled.
Yeah, I really hope that the other couple isn't like, I don't want to say like non-important, because I know that they're probably going to have some role to play, but I really hope it's not like one of those situations where you have multiple people present in like a situation like this, but then everybody except like the main two people are killed off immediately.
Ooh, you know what would be a twist?
What?
What if they're in on it? The other couple.
I don't think so.
I mean they're probably not, but like I said, a twist.
I know, but like that would also mean that like, I think that would, because for it to be a twist, I think they would have to make sense in a way. And the people that they encounter are complete and utter strangers that are criminals that traffic women. And that woman that was there was part of the trafficking. Like, she wasn't like in on it. She was a victim of it.
Right.
That's why she was like, please give me my phone back. They'll kill you all. That's not a threat from her. That's a, you should give me my phone back because I don't want to see these guys kill you.
Right, but I'm just saying that it would be interesting to see if it plays out that they go as friends to this cabin, and you know, we, like you said, there's the main couple and we're seeing all this stuff going on with them, and you said we're not sure what's going on with the other couple. Well, what if we're not seeing what's going on with them because they're part of it?
I mean, I guess it's all up in the air. I brought it up because you're right, we didn't see what, like, them and the rest of the trailer really after a certain point. And that's why I brought up the fact that I hope they're not just killed off. Because I saw the boyfriend in the other couple grab his gun and, you know, they were all getting ready. But then after that point, you didn't see him anymore. Like, at all. You didn't see the girl after that point either. So it just made me think to myself, oh, you know, fuck, they just went and killed off those people.
Yeah.
I hope that's not what happened. I hope that they do more than what the trailer let off that they were doing. Because as soon as I saw him grab his gun, I was like, yes, finally, a friend in one of these movies that is outside of the main, two actually doing something and actually succeeding. But yeah, that's a suspenseful thriller dropping this year too. Our next one coming out on HBO is a documentary about the largest athlete that ever existed, Andre the Giant. Famous WWF superstar, Andre the Giant. It's a, just based on the documentary trailer we see here, it's a documentary just detailing, I guess, his life, but more so the ins and outs of his personal life as a superstar, more so than, his early life. Like, they're going to touch on that, but it's interesting because they're, interviewing a lot of the people he worked with, like Hulk Hogan, Jerry the King Lawler, however you pronounce his last name. I've heard it pronounced all different ways. You have
Wesley.
Mr. McMahon in there. All of them talking about their experiences, how they worked with Andre, what he was like. That's really interesting. I really, really like how this is the kind of documentary I've been waiting to see for a while. Not just because, not like I'm a huge fan of Andre the Giant, but he's such an interesting person. Just to look at this guy and see just like what his life was like, see how he functioned, because whether you like the guy's performances or even really heard of the guy before, I think you're gonna look at a 7'4", over 400-pound guy and be like, yeah, I think I want to watch that. I think I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people have seen the movie The Princess Bride, which he was in, of course.
Of course.
Classic movie. If you haven't seen it,
what's wrong with you?
There's something wrong with you. Just kidding. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But, I mean, like you said, documenting his life is obviously going to be different than the things that people of normal stature go through. Like, my stepdad was 7'2",
mm-hmm.
and he had to have cars specially made to where the seats went back far enough so he could drive. He had to have his house specially renovated so that he would be able to not have to bend down just to avoid hitting his head.
Yeah.
Everywhere we'd go in public, people would look at him and make those jokes. How's the weather up there?
Yeah.
Just, it's like a constant struggle. And I read that Andre is, he was known for being able to hold a lot of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that goes without saying, because when you're that big, things are going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that, this was interesting to me, he was having a surgery done, and the anesthesiologist actually could not come up with a dose based off of his weight and height, so they went off of the amount of alcohol he could drink.
Yeah.
And played off of that to try and figure out the dose that they would give him to knock him out for surgery.
Jeez.
And, I mean, you could see the pain on his face and some of the shots from the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's true because my stepdad has neuropathy. And that is something that affects a lot of people. And that's, that goes on with people that are of normal stature as well. But
with guys that huge,
it's a larger scale.
Mm-hmm.
And, my dad is 6'8", and he doesn't have neuropathy, but he has joint problems, and that's starting to show the older he gets. His knees are going out, and
yeah.
it's a hard life being that big. It really is.
Especially for someone like Andre the Giant, who constantly put himself in the position of overexhaustion, constantly putting himself at risk of suffering an injury, was constantly pushing his huge body to its limits just because he had to perform every week on a night, doing all these crazy stunts, just as any big guy could try to do. I mean, that was his role as a wrestler, a professional wrestler, was that he had to do all this crazy stuff, and he was the big guy. I think I once heard that he held the WWE Championship, World Heavyweight Championship belt for like 15 years, just because nobody could stop him. Just because he was that huge and strong, but they're not totally focusing on that. They're looking also underneath the surface, because like you said, in like a lot of shots, you see the pain on his face. They show you a shot of the surgery he has had on his legs. They also show you what he was like when he wasn't performing or not being the nice guy everybody thought he was.
Like how he was, they showed a picture of him sitting on an airplane where he had to take up both seats.
Yeah.
They show, which is definitely accurate. When you're that big, you're going to take up both seats. I go places with my dad, and he has a hard time fitting in seats. We go to a hockey game, just anything, football game. And for Andre, I know that's really hard because he was not only tall, but he was big.
Yeah.
And, he's got to cram into these pre-made things that are made for the generalized population. And, I saw him sitting in a chair of what looked like a hospital or something, and there was a cop standing across from him. And sitting down, he was almost as tall as the cop standing. Yeah. And he's just, in a lot of shots, he did look happy in some, but those were in his younger years, it appeared to me. The older he got, I feel like maybe he got kind of tired of it.
Yeah, I think they even mentioned that at one point, it's like he was getting more and more like frustrated with everything, just because he knew he didn't have long to live. Like, he knew being as big as he was, he wouldn't be able to keep going. And that's really sad to think about, that the guy literally being the biggest celebrity in the world, having all this stuff going for him, knew that the very thing that was, giving him his income and making him this huge superstar was also killing him, essentially. Like you just see it in his eyes sometimes, just the hopeless fact that he has no control over this. He didn't ask to be that big.
No.
And it just happened. Another thing that I think would really suck probably sucked a lot for Andre, was being that big made him, I believe, probably the most recognizable person in the world.
Right.
Just because when you're that big, it doesn't matter if, people are looking at you from behind or anything, or even if they're like far away from you. Like, you stand out in a crowd when you're that big.
Now, something I'm hoping out of this documentary is that we get to see not just interviews from people you mentioned, like Hulk Hogan and, his co-stars from The Princess Bride and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping we get to see some footage of Andre talking about himself and his life and his feelings, because that would be the best way for anybody to really understand what it was like to be him. Mm-hmm. And, his friends, they could tell you what he said, but to really get to see Andre, to get to see his face while he's saying it, and to get to hear how his voice sounds, I think would really get his point across more, his tone across more, and kind of help talk about his disease and, what that does to people, because that is a disease that affects other people as well.
Mm-hmm. It does definitely hurt people, but, with someone like Andre the Giant, I hope, coming off of this documentary, people will be able to see, well, even though this negatively affected his life in certain ways, hopefully we'll all be able to come out of it with a more positive perspective, because hopefully Andre at some point in his life just sort of accepted it and tried to help other people feel better about themselves.
Right.
And that's really all we can hope for now, is that his legacy keeps going and affects people positively, which is what I really hope more than anything comes out of this documentary, is people continue his legacy and continue speaking the words about him that people back then shouted into the heavens. Last trailer we're going to talk about is actually a fan-made trailer, sort of a concept trailer. This has been circulating around for a while. This is a trailer that's sort of inspired by the possible talks surrounding a possible Obi-Wan Kenobi solo film in the Star Wars franchise. And it is a trailer with Ewan McGregor, but it is footage taken from his performances in The Last Days of Christ or something. It was a movie made like a while back where he plays Jesus Christ in his 40-day journey through the wilderness, and it looks okay, but it is mainly just him walking through the desert, and the desert is supposed to be Tatooine, where he ends up later in his life as Obi-Wan Kenobi, waiting for Luke Skywalker to grow up, and then he'll be able to train him, just to fill out the eventual prophecy. But as a trailer, it's not that impressive, just because it is taken from another film. But as a concept, it is really interesting. It's basically asking the question, what happened to Obi-Wan Kenobi after Revenge of the Sith and before A New Hope started? Because there is a huge gap there. Now, with a lot of people, we can kind of assume we know what happened to Yoda. He went off and he went to his little planet in the Dagobah system and essentially just did his thing there for years and years. We know what happened to Anakin. He went on to become Darth Vader, get the plans for the Death Star, all that stuff. We know about those people, but we don't really know a whole lot about what happened to Obi-Wan. We don't know what exactly went down after his fight with Anakin, which was a really, really crushing fight. And I like the idea that it's more of a character-driven Star Wars movie. Whereas with the majority of Star Wars films out there, a lot of them are plot-driven, where the story carries it along. And there's all these huge things going on. There's twists and turns and more characters being introduced, and action all over the place, and all that kind of stuff. But here, I like the idea that we're solely focusing on a person, one man, and his struggle to come to terms with the fact that he essentially, through his own actions, failed as a teacher and, in a way, led to the end of the Jedi Order in a certain way. And I'm really interested in seeing how he deals with all of that. I'm really interested in seeing how he comes to grips with the fact that, in a huge way, he failed,
Yeah.
And I don't know if, the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie hasn't been officially announced or confirmed as of yet, but there are talks that LucasArt Films are trying to talk with some directors, get some directors hired on to try and get the ball rolling, see if we can get something, going by the time 2019 rolls around. And if they actually do get Ewan McGregor to, get back in for this role, I would not be against that at all. Ewan McGregor is, in my opinion, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, you had the old guy from the first movie, but he was just in the first movie and in the last movie of that trilogy. But that was it. You didn't really see that guy anymore. I mean, he's good to be the old, wise, sagey kind of character, but Ewan McGregor played Obi-Wan Kenobi perfectly when he was younger. It's like, when Ewan McGregor played Obi-Wan Kenobi, I genuinely felt this is what that guy would be like if he was younger.
Right.
And seeing the way he was when he was older is like, and his eventual death is like seeing a character that was already developed and seeing a character that we already saw, but we didn't need to see that much more of. But seeing Ewan McGregor as he was at that age, and then progressing forward, we get to actually see him turn in to the person he'll eventually become. We get to see him turn from the student that became a teacher, and then from the teacher that failed, and then the teacher that had to learn to live with that failure. And then we get to see that through that progression. If this movie comes to light, we get to see the progression that eventually will come to a head and give us the character that we all think of when we think of Star Wars: A New Hope, when we think of the Jedi teacher, And I would be really excited to see something like that.
Yeah. I thought it was a good concept. The trailer was actually really good for a fan-made trailer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those are not put together as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought whoever made this did a good job, and their concept is actually something I would like to see from the movie, where, like you said, we saw him walking through the desert a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that would be cool because it seemed like it was Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of on a self-finding journey.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to re-find his purpose, re-find his self, where maybe he felt like he had lost his self.
Right.
And he's trying to get some redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be something that I would like to see, where, like you said, it'd be a character-based movie versus a plot-based movie. And I think it's awesome. And to be honest, I'm excited if it does come out, because that's a more recent Star Wars movie coming out without Kylo Ren in it. And I would really like that.
I think it would also be, I think it would be the Star Wars movie that I think everybody would be able to get with on a personal level.
Right.
Because, as popular as Rogue One was, it wasn't my favorite Star Wars film. I definitely didn't feel like it was, that great. I felt like it was a good step to go in to do all these Star Wars films, but I didn't feel that it was all that important.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things. But seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the most landmark characters in the Star Wars franchise, have his own movie and have character-related progressions centered around him and everything that'll happen for him, I think is more important. I think does affect things in a grander scale, because whatever we see in this movie is going to be the shining light or the purpose that he can find to eventually get himself to the point where he becomes the teacher that will teach Luke Skywalker. And, that will eventually lead into A New Hope or other Star Wars movies even. Who knows? The possibilities are always open with these kind of things. But, that's all up for speculation, as a lot of these movies are. If there were any other trailers or tidbits of the trailers we missed, feel free to let us know in the comments below. Babe, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Thanks for talking with us.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. And tune in next week We'll be getting our own apartment. That's pretty fun. Wish us luck with that. If we don't come in with a new episode by next week, it's because we're still trying to figure out all of our...
How to adult.
Exactly. So, once again, thank you for tuning in. Have yourselves a good night.
Stay classy.
And be safe.